Back on the 3rd of July, I went for a ride out towards Bayswater along the railway line and came across what I thought was a pretty lousy detour around the worksite there. And I put together a video back then on what the problems were, which were all to do with signage and lack of maps, and sent it off to the Metronet team, and a couple of days later I got a response. Now, the main problem was just around the location of the signage. Now, it's okay up to about this point, and yeah, see that sign hiding behind that bush? Well, I didn't. In fact, I missed it twice. So it was all about just, getting signage put in the right place for cyclists and checking it. You wouldn't think that would be too difficult. Now, a couple of days later, I got this response, all good, and they said they've reviewed the signage and they're investigating vegetation trimming in 2 locations, all good. They've installed some on-path detour map signage to the east and west, and they're providing further guidance, etc., and also increasing map signage to the north of the station. The signs are placed higher than normal sight lines are for cyclists travelling from both the north and the south of the station. Yeah, okay, I get that, that's fine. So that's all good. It's now 2 weeks since this email was sent, and I thought I would go back and have a look and see whether anything had actually changed in the interim. I'm standing here right in the middle of 2 signs. So there's one just behind that tree there, hidden by the tree. And there's one over there hidden behind that tree. So it looks like no tree trimming's been done at all. Now, this is what it looked like on the 19th of July when I had a second look. And there were no issues the first time around going along here. It was the signage hiding up here behind this bit of shrubbery which caused confusion the first time. So have they fixed it? That's what it looked like before. This is what it looks like now. So before, after. They've clearly been out with a secateurs or a chainsaw or something and taken a bit of that shrubbery out and made that sign a little bit more visible. I'm still not going to say it's incredibly visible. It's better than it was before, but I think it could still do a little bit better. But once you get through the car park, it's reasonably obvious where you've got to go to wind your way through here. And when we get to this point, there's actually a map on the fence there. I will come back to that in a minute or two. But let's just continue on with the detour. Fairly straightforward. We go down here for another 100 metres or so, try not to knock it over the pedestrians. There's some reasonably clear signage there, but although some of it is still hiding behind shrubbery as well. I guess if someone went out and had a really close look at it, they'd see all the places where shrubbery is partially obscuring some of the signage. And let's just leave it there. I'm not going to bother with the far end of it in this video, but yeah, there's stuff down the far end as well. So coming back from the other direction, what's it like? Well, we come into the roadworks, and over on the right hand side of the road there's an absolute plethora of signage. What's it like? Well, when I first looked at it I thought, what the hell? There's a whole bunch of signs saying go right, and there's a sign that says go straight ahead. Slightly confusing, but then I noticed that the straight ahead sign is actually on a bit of an angle. So I thought, I'll go up this side street and I'll have a look at what the signage looks like coming from this other direction, because you got to remember that signage is set up for cyclists coming from 2 directions, not just from one. And does it make sense if I'm coming at it from this direction? And the answer is yes, it actually makes perfect sense, because the straight ahead sign there is pointing at you, and that's where you want to go. Just wanted to point out the difficulties in signage placement that that could be a little bit confusing for people coming down the road there, seeing that bent, what do you call it, bent, twisted, oblique angled sign, etc., that might throw them off a little bit until they figure out what's going on. So perhaps placement could be a little bit better, I don't know. Anyway, let's have a look at this map at the end of the fence here. And it's the same map that's on the website, and I have just one issue with it, and that's orientation to the ground. It should actually be put that way, because that's the way the railway line runs, not across the map. I mean, that's just basic map reading 101, is you always orientate the map to the ground. But I guess they made the map up, the fence was there, they just stuck it up in a way that worked. I mean, it would be stupid if they put it on the side, but it's the kind of thing you got to think about in advance, is where you're going to mount these things and orient them. Now, that sign is still invisible behind that bit of shrubbery, so that hasn't been cleaned out. And yeah, if we continue on along here a little bit further, yeah, we can see again that sign obscured. Let's go down and see the last sign that's partially obscured by the shrubbery. And this one's an absolute classic because the shrubbery down here, it's starting to go yellow. I don't know if it's flowering or the leaves are dying off or whatever. But the colour scheme is almost the same as the detour signage. So you've got a yellow sign behind yellow plants. And if it wasn't for my flashing light there, how visible would that be to, you know, someone coming along here casually? Probably not that visible. So yeah, Metronet, I think you just got to do a little bit more work on this, and you know, just get someone to go out and actually ride up and down and have a look at it, because it's an improvement on a poorly implemented detour, but you know what, it's still a poorly implemented detour.